Hey students, so welcome to this video. I am going to cover the rhetorical analysis prompt. This is the first essay that you will be doing for me. And there are a couple of things that I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you this prompt. I'm going to go over a PowerPoint that I've created to kind of go over the rhetorical appeals, to show some practices, and then to show an example topic proposal for you. So hopefully between looking at the prompt, looking at the PowerPoint and these practices, we can feel more prepared about the rhetorical analysis. And remember, so you're going to be doing some pre-writing tomorrow, and then you are going to be composing your rough draft by Monday. Remember, we are moving at a quick pace. This is an 8-week course, so normally we would take twice as long to do these essays. However, because of the nature of this course, we're shortening it, so make sure that you manage your time like you need to. So this essay is all about exercising your information literacy skills as well as your visual and digital literacies. So it is very important that you follow this prompt to the T. What you'll be doing is you'll be looking at some kind of website, whether that be a blog, whether that be a blog post, whether that be an online newspaper or magazine article, or maybe some kind of organization or government website as well. Those are all options for you to choose some. I would like for you to choose something in a topic that is credible, though. You are going to be writing a 3 to 5 page double-spaced essay. Now that'll be by the final draft. I'm expecting 3 to 5 pages. For your rough draft, I'm not requiring you to do 3 to 5 pages. However, it would be a good idea for you to at least do 2 pages for your rough draft. If it's anything less than 2 pages, I can tell you right now what my feedback is going to be. And my feedback is going to be, hey, I think your essay needs to develop more and share more ideas to construct a more in-depth analysis. So it's important that you try to do as much as you can for this rough draft, even though, again, I'm not expecting a full 3 to 5 pages until your final draft. There's a couple of files on this list that are also on your PowerPoint. So you've got the rhetorical triangle, and this again goes over the 3 main rhetorical appeals, although there is a 4th that we will go over. There's also, whenever you click on a website and say that visuals are included, there's a color scheme, maybe a certain font is there, space is important. Taking a look at these elements of design and deciding if the background of your website is all black, does that do something to create a mood? Same with the way that shapes are being used. Does that make it look unprofessional? Does that make it look professional? Those types of things. Sorry, I just got a phone call, so that's why I might have sounded a little distracted right then. Had to ignore it. Okay, let me pull up your PowerPoint. So let's kind of go over this. So rhetorical analysis, it's an essay. In your case, it's 3 to 5 pages. You're analyzing some kind of text. So again, a blog post, organization, government website, or maybe an online newspaper, magazine article. And you're analyzing the text with the 4 rhetorical appeals, and you're thinking about how effectively that text is constructed. So you're thinking about ethos. How does it use credibility and authority? Pathos. How does it appeal to emotion? Logos. How does it appeal to your sense of logic? And then kairos. How does it, I've got my dog barking in the background, so again, if that's why I seem distracted, that's why. And then kairos, the sense of timeliness, the relevance of this article as well. So let's go through the first three: ethos, pathos, and logos. So ethos, again, is all about the speaker. It's about their authority, their credibility. Essentially, how do you know that you can trust them? How can you trust their message? Do you trust them enough to share that information? If we're thinking about being on Facebook and just randomly sharing anything that's on Facebook, that's a really low ethos. We want to make sure we know where our sources are coming from, who is publishing them, who is writing them, what kind of research do they include, what kind of testimony do they share to do academic work. For pathos, that's thinking about you, the audience. How can a text manipulate you to feel a certain way? So in the examples that we're going to look at today, there's an example where you may feel grief. There's another example where you may feel joy, depending on what your memory is. And then with logos, that's more about the message. It's not really about the speaker and their credibility. It's not about you, the audience, and your emotion. It's just about the message. So what kind of descriptions, timelines, facts, histories, those types of things. Kairos is the fourth. So again, it kind of goes with the sense of timeliness or relevant. It comes from the Greek word meaning opportunity. So let me give you a quick example really quickly here. So after 9/11, Budweiser started running a campaign immediately following 9/11, and it was during the Super Bowl of that year. So just 5 months after 9/11, Budweiser came out with this advertisement. Let's see if I can get us there. And this was their ad for the Super Bowl that following February. So again, just 5 months later. Okay, so in that video there, again, just 5 months after 9/11, Budweiser is paying a tribute to New York. You've got the Clydesdale horses marching over and kind of taking a knee to remember. Budweiser is appealing to a sense of American patriotism. So if we're thinking about Budweiser pulling off of how the audience might have felt about 9/11, and then making that correlation to be American is to drink Budweiser beer, to be in support of New York after 9/11 is to drink Budweiser beer. That's what Budweiser is essentially trying to do. We'll go over Kairos as well as pathos, logos, and ethos in each of the examples that we're going to go over. Excuse me, really fast. Let me shut this window. Someone came home and immediately started mowing the lawn. So here are some things to think about whenever you choose your website source. Who are they talking to? Why are they, what's the point? What are they trying to push? Is there an agenda that they're trying to push? Are they trying to educate a certain group of people? Are they trying to empower a certain group of people? How do they do that? Are they trying to inform you about a person, place, or set of issues, or maybe a timeline of events? And then, so besides just words, what are some other ways that maybe this these websites communicate meaning to you and fulfill their purpose besides just words. So we're thinking color, we're thinking images, we're thinking shapes, a lot of those visual designs that you could find on your prompt. Think about the design. What kind of images are being used? What about the color palette? Is there a certain mood to the website that you're looking at? And how do all of those things come together again for their purpose? Discuss the interactivity. So what that means, and I'll show you an example of this, is whenever you go to click on a website, there might be a link that's highlighted, and if you click on it, it may take you to another source. So that's what interactivity means. Interactivity also means that you have the opportunity to post comments or respond to other people. You'll see that a lot on blog posts and magazine and newspaper articles online. Do the fact that people get to interact with this and express their own ethos, does that do anything? Is there a link to someone's tweet as a way to kind of quote them? Is there a link on the author's page where you can click the author, go to their individual page or their Twitter feed to see kind of what that author is all about, and if they have a good enough, if they're qualified to write the material that they're writing? Consider the audience, or consider the influence. And I want you to think about this from your perspective. Why do you like the website? And try to be specific with that. What do you like about other websites that talk about similar things? Maybe what are the differences between the website article that you're choosing is and other website articles are? Is there something that you like or you dislike? And just kind of be honest. I'm going through that kind of quickly. You can at any point, if you need to, pause this video, click through these PowerPoint slides on your own. You can go back, look at the prompt if you need to, but we are going to go ahead and jump into some practice. So for your practice, we're going to look at a newspaper front page, we're going to look at a commercial, an online newspaper, and a journal article. On Sunday, May 24th, 2020, the New York Times printed this visually captivating cover, which related to the COVID-19 pandemic. I want you to look at this for just a second. If you're trying to figure out what exactly is on this page, I will show you. But you might have a sense of feeling overwhelmed because there is such small print, no visuals. It is just linguistic text that is just filling this page. It might feel overwhelming. Now, so here's what's on the page. You have names, ages, and locations and interests, or maybe something about their employment, what they did. You have the headline, US deaths near 100,000. So we can numerically keep track of who has died. But then we have comma and incalculable loss. So yes, while we have these numbers, we cannot quantify this grief that we have all experienced from COVID. So remember, this is in May 2020. So now I believe we're around 1 million deaths. So, you know, a lot has happened since then. And you also have the subheader here. They were not simply names on a list. They were us. So you have someone like Luke Workoff, 33, from Huntington, New York. His relentless passion for his family and friends. So something that they'll be remembered by. And again, over here, you have Charles, 86, from New Jersey, worked 40 years for the New York Times. You have Ben, 83, from Boston, a stockbroker. And you know, you could go through this and read as much of these as you want. I know that's kind of blurry, but you'd be able to, you know, kind of see. You have Wisconsin represented, North Carolina, Louisiana, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Illinois. You have a few Chicago over here. You have Michigan, Maryland. So a lot of people. So once you zoom back out and you realize, oh my gosh, we've just listed people here, you see that what the New York Times isn't trying to do is that they're not trying to educate you on the pandemic. What they're not trying to do is to share facts about how COVID is transmitted, specifically facts about hospitalizations. Excuse me while I shut this other window. All right, much better. Remember that at this time, what's going on is that the United States is internally battling. At this point, we're arguing about lockdowns, partial lockdowns, as well as mask mandates. So the United States is arguing about this. Those at the New York Times feel that President Trump, who is in office at this time, is not doing enough, is not taking strict enough measures to manage the pandemic, to kind of manage hospitalization, manage the spread. So the New York Times is publishing this article as kind of an argument, as in, we're not just dealing with numbers here, we're dealing with real people, we're dealing with real families who have suffered real loss, who are experiencing real grief, and who need change to take place on the national level to prevent this from continuing to happen. So, you know, these are things that are happening during this time, and all of that, by the way, has to deal with Kairos. I want to go through, let's go through ethos, pathos, logos, and Kairos. These are notes that I made. So ethos, the New York Times, it's an investigative newspaper. It has several Pulitzer Prize winning journalists and storytellers. Now, here's the thing. I have put this on here, and I would like to say here, awards and accolades do not necessarily mean anything as far as credibility goes. If you have an organization with several government agencies or private agencies behind them, supporting them, they've thoroughly done their research, that's one thing. Just because you're a Pulitzer Prize winner doesn't necessarily mean that everything that you say is going to be credible. You need to look at bias. You need to look at language that people use. You need to look at essentially the argument that they're constructing more than their awards and accolades. You do kind of have these flash biographies, though, that kind of are these posthumous, meaning after death testimonies, as kind of a way to say, I died from COVID. That's what I'm choosing to label it as. You could choose to label it as something different. As far as pathos, so again, this is just visually dense. It's all linguistic text. There's no images. There's no other headlines that are there. It's just small, compact font. This might give you, once you realize, of course, that these are names that are listed, you might have a sense of grief or anger. your reaction might depend on how you feel politically. But essentially, the New York Times is trying to get you to empathize. So this this list of real life individuals contrasts to the number of death. We're talking about language such as an incalculable loss. It de-emphasizes logos. We're trying to not focus on the logic. We're trying to not focus on the statistics. This is the exact opposite of what the New York Times is trying to do. And we're trying to just encourage people to pause, think about the individuals, and to empathize. You do, of course, have logos. So logos is just facts. And those bibliographies are a form of facts. So we're taking we're not really talking about statistics of how many patients are in the hospitals, but we are describing people. And again, those kind of stand, that works together with the number to show the magnitude of the pandemic. And again, we've talked about Kairos. The US government, according to the New York Times, wasn't taking aggressive enough measures. The New York Times was asking everyone to kind of quit their arguing and let's think about these people who have lost life, families who have lost life, and take active measures. So that would be an example, albeit very quick, of a rhetorical analysis just of a newspaper cover. Let's move on to our second example. I haven't looked at the introductions. I don't know how old everyone is in class. If you remember 2003, then you might remember this commercial, the really sweet dog singing about canine advantage. So this campaign was called Hello Mother, Hello Father. It was to sell flea prevention medication. It is based off of a comedy song called Hello Mudda, Hello Fada, in which you have this singer comedian who is singing a song about Camp Granada. The kid, he hates it there. He just wants his parents to come pick him up. And of course, so we get a little bit of that. To hear a little bit about that song.
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Granada. Camp is very entertaining. And they say we'll have some fun if it stops raining. I went hiking with Joe Spivey. He developed poison ivy. You remember Leonard Skinner? He got ptomaine poisoning last night after dinner.
All right, so that's kind of where the song is based off of. And now let's go ahead and just listen to the commercial, and then I will share my notes with you as far as ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos go.
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Flea sticks, mosquitoes really bother. Thanks for the package. That's why I'm writing. Canine Advantage quickly stopped all the biting. Swimming, hiking, and tent pitching. They're not biting. I'm not itching. Can't wait to show you all my new tricks. Thanks again for sending me Canine Advantage.
Only Canine Advantage stops fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes from biting in minutes.
Hello, mother.
All right. Before I go back to my PowerPoint, I would like for you, I will play this one more time. You can also stop and rewatch it as many times as you want, or go to the URL. I want you to think about what are some examples of facts, what are some examples of ethos, what are some examples of emotion that you can find. So take a moment to go back and watch the video again. Try to come up with your own list. Here's my list, things that I've come up with. So talking about company, brand, and celebrity as far as ethos goes. So Bayer, it's a German-based international pharmaceutical company. It's huge, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. We're talking about medications for people, for animals. We're talking about agricultural products, cleaning products. They have their hands in everything. Canine Advantix specifically has been around for decades. It's endorsed by veterinarians. You actually see at the end of this video, I know it's grainy, but you'll be able to see Canine Advantix. You see the bear symbol down there. You also see available from your veterinarian. So we're going off of your veterinarian endorses this, ask your vet about us. They'll give us a good recommendation to buy our product. Bayer also does things like aspirin, so likely around your house you may have a Bayer product, even if it's not Canine Advantix. So that would be ethos for this. And it's, again, kind of pretty well all there at the end, unless we're also talking about the song from 1963. That's kind of a sense of celebrity with that as well. I haven't listed that here, but you could include that song. Pathos, emotion, visuals, and sounds. So it's a lab puppy. You got a high-pitched child's voice. Notice that this is not a Rottweiler breed with a deep human male voice. If we're thinking about why maybe the breed, it's a I want to caveat this by saying that I have a dog that's part pit bull. So if we're thinking about stigmatizing aggressive and non-aggressive dogs, a lab puppy is going to be, they're known as family dogs, child friendly, very playful, again, very friendly. So I want you to imagine that for this commercial, everyone sat down in a room, very much like Don Draper in Mad Men, if you've ever seen Mad Men. And everyone went over everything together, from the breed of the dog to the age of the dog to the child's voice to what activities need to be shown to the song that they picked to the speed that they're doing the jingle, to the setting, to the colors. All of that is very intentional, to the very sweet little paw print at the end. Everything has meaning, and the sweet little handwriting as well. Everything has meaning. Everything has been manipulated to make you feel a certain way. So that would be pathos. And remember that it may not necessarily be bad that someone manipulates your emotion, but it is something that people do. And so to keep that in mind, you do it in arguments as well. I do it whenever I say, Mom, I love you so much. Will you please go get me ice cream and bring it over to my house? I automatically do that. I appeal to a sense of emotion there. Logic, so there's really not a lot of logic. Pretty well the only line that we get that's really logic is this medication, it takes the bite out of fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes, and that's about it. Kairos, I'm gonna have to guess for a second. Let's say this aired during the summer or spring months, right during the time that you have fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes emerging, and during the prime months whenever things are going to happen. This is also the same time that kids are out of school, ready to enjoy summer vacation. So what this whole commercial is trying to do is it's trying to appeal to your sense of humanity and the sense of vulnerability of taking care of a child. So if a kid at summer camp was in danger, you would want them taken care of. In danger of disease or parasites, you would want them taken care of. And so now we're looking at this dog and we're saying, a dog, as a member of our family, we want it to be just as taken care of as our children are. They're just as precious, just as valuable. let's take care of them. Whether or not you believe that is one thing, however, that's something that Canine Advantix is trying to do. Something that I'm going to pause that I do want you to think about, with the Canine Advantix commercial, if I asked you to come up to this triangle and to put a circle somewhere on this triangle, not all the way over on the edges, where would you put that circle to represent which appeals were strongest in that video, which appeals were weakest? I'll be honest with you, I would probably put it right here. I think it appeals to ethos and pathos more. I think it appeals to pathos the most, and it appeals to logos the least. There is that one line of logos, but I think that I would put it here. Nothing that you ever look at will be right here in the middle. Nothing will be. Again, it's not bad. That just means that the author is trying to use a different mode to share information, trying to use a different appeal to connect with you. And that's perfectly fine. Let's talk about this, the tornado that happened. Maybe some of you were affected by this. On Friday, December 10th of last year, you had that tornado that swept from Arkansas to Kentucky. Hundreds of miles of destruction. News reports immediately started coming out. We are going to look at the newspaper article from The Guardian. Kentucky tornadoes, up to 100 feared dead in the historic U.S. storms. You have the link on this PowerPoint that you can click, by the way. So that way you can follow along at your own pace. If I move too quickly, you can pause this, scroll through, read it on your own. As you skim, you can see that we have the Kentucky governor. He's describing this path of destruction, people killed, houses destroyed. We're talking about wind levels now. We're looking at researchers from the region, so Northern Illinois University. We're talking about why tornadoes are happening at this time. We've got President Biden speaking and addressing the nation. We're talking about that candle factory in Mayfield. We have the picture of the carnage. The multiple tornadoes. I'm trying to skim through this with you. Kentucky State Police, the city's mayor, looked as if a bomb dropped. And again, we've got a picture of just rubble that shows that. You have an appeal to donate blood. And then we have a local here, an employee that worked in the candle factory, sharing her experience with what happened. We've got national news. All right. So now, if you would, go ahead and pause the video and start making a list of your own of ethos, pathos, and logos for this article. I am going to go ahead and go over my list now. The article uses firsthand testimony, so we're talking about ethos. We want to think about the publication, the author, testimony. The article uses firsthand testimony. It cites local, state, and national officials, politicians, and researchers. So we have the Kentucky governor, we have the United States president, we have researchers from Northern Illinois University, we have locals, the mayor, and local employees talking about this. So something to say about ethos. This is a Guardian, a UK-based newspaper. It's known for its investigative journalism, and its author it's an experienced journalist talking about the United States. Something to maybe say about ethos is that why wouldn't we choose an American publication, or why wouldn't we choose a local news outlet to cover this? That's something to think about whenever you're choosing ethos. So likely, if you're a citizen of the UK reading this, you might get your news from The Guardian. However, if you live in Kentucky, you might have gotten your news from the local station. So, pathos, the article includes images to portray the wreckage. You've got some language. People are saying there are feared to be this many dead rather than suspected. A more neutral word could have been used. So therefore, words like feared, path of destruction, things like that, those are all phrases that are gonna kind of manipulate your emotions there. Logos, we have several facts about the tornado, aftermath, descriptions of the tornado, number of dead, descriptions of the weather. As far as Kairos goes, this wasn't immediate news. It took 2 days for The Guardian to publish their article, so if you were wanting sooner news, again, you probably would have looked at your local stations and read local news. So 2 days may not seem like a long time, but 2 days is actually a very long time. Enough for other news sources to cover things like NBC. So you have The Guardian is borrowing from other newspapers. And whenever you analyze your websites, whichever you decide, think about who they're citing. If their ideas are original, if they have real-time people there, those types of things. So there are some strengths and weaknesses with this article. We're going to move on to the fourth practice here. This is a journal article that you can find online. I'm not going to let you do journal articles for this first essay. However, I still want to show you an example. You can find this journal article again on the PowerPoint at the link that I give you. This is talking about stigma with people looking for psychiatric, psychological services, and these are across different countries. You do not have to read this whole article. You absolutely do not. You can just skim through, read the abstract, read the conclusion. For this practice, that's all you have to do. Also, fun fact, depending on your articles, they will always have, they might have information about the authors, maybe at the end, maybe at the beginning, maybe on the website, maybe you have to Google them. But either way, you can typically find information about the authors. So if you want to click the link and scroll through and see what you can come up with quickly, go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you my list. So ethos, you've got various faculty from Iowa State, and you also have other institutions inside and outside the United States. You have some in Hong Kong, you have some in Illinois. And then also, we're looking at least 3 decades of research from the 80s to the 2010s. Emotion, we don't have a lot of emotion, really. This is an academic article. It shouldn't be high with emotions. We have a little bit of emotion because they're at the end. The authors make the appeal to continue doing more research so that way we can help those to benefit from seeking psychological help. So kind of for the good of humanity, that's why we're suggesting doing more research, not because we're just interested in the research. There are 4 tables where the results are organized. And again, we do go through a lot of research. Kairos, this article was published in 2017, so 5 years ago. It's relevant for its time. I wouldn't say it's super relevant now. I would say now you would need something closer to 2020, if not 2021 or 2022. To look at to really find out about stigmas. However, fairly recent, so not a bad source by any means to look at. If we were going to go up on this triangle, I think I would put my little dot here. It leans more towards logos and ethos, less towards pathos. Remember that for the Canine Advantix commercial, we were over here, and now for the journal article, we're over here. Both are great texts to look at for rhetorical analysis. However, they're very different in the way that they deal with that. We didn't talk about where we might put the Mayfield one. I think I would probably put it pretty close to the center. I personally am going to choose pathos and ethos, even though it does include a lot of logos as well, just because there is so much emotion and they do use a lot of testimony and research from others. So I think I'll actually put it right there. Decisions. Let me go over the sample topic proposal now. So let me show you the website that I'm choosing to use for this. Mental health of college students is getting worse. You'll notice what I do here. So the 3 things that I'm requiring of you are the 3 things that I've done here. I've copy and pasted the URL. The URL is important so that way I can see, and I can see kind of how your summary went, and I can see if you do have an idea, an example for each of the appeals. So I do need to see your URL. I've had students before who never show me their URL, and I just can't grade the rhetorical analyses very accurately because I've never seen the article before. I just don't know. So I kind of summarize in about 3 sentences what this article is about. It's focusing on college students or their mental health, especially in the past 10 years. These are the times whenever mental illness start manifesting. And then the article ends by saying we need to change our behavioral health programs to address this rising need. I give you 1 to 2 sentences here about the credibility. I'm saying Boston University is reputable research. The author is credible, and the blog, the publication is credible. I give you an example of each. The article was supported by the National Institutes of Health. So you have this organization supporting Jessica, adding to its authority. For pathos, it includes a picture of a college student who looks distraught, looks overwhelmed somehow. For logos, it talks about statistical results from studies. So for example, we've got an increase in depression, increase in anxiety. For Kairos, this was published in 2022 and it cites sources from 2020 and 2021. So it's up to date on relevant research. And just for funsies down here for you to look at, I've got an example of how you would cite this in the MLA format. Okay guys, so again, your rhetorical analysis, you are picking an online text, a blog post, an organization website, a government website, or an online magazine or newspaper article, and you were looking at the 4 appeals. You're looking at ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos. Please take a look carefully through this PowerPoint. I know I went through everything kind of quickly. I'm kind of relying on the fact that maybe you will pause the video to do some of your own work first. But hopefully this was helpful in kind of guiding you in the right direction. So remember, for your pre-writing, you'll need to locate a credible website article, add the URL, give me a paragraph that says what the source is about, how do you know it's credible, and then give me 1 example of ethos, pathos, logos, and kairos each. And then of course on Monday, I'll ask you to submit your rough draft. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I have the utmost faith in us to do this as well as we possibly can. All right. See ya.